Hello, Sue Collins.
Hello, Anne Gilgy. It's so nice to be here.
It's so nice to be chatting with you, one of my oldest pals
I know.
and my great comedy compadre. For those who don't know, what did we do?
We set the world alight with our unique blend of music, stand-up and
Chat.
Yes, sophisticated silliness. Isn't that what they call that?
Yeah.
They describe the noodles. It's so funny sitting opposite you and I'm going, oh, tell me about yourself, and you know everything about me.
Yeah.
You know everything about
Do
me.
I though?
Oh,
we'll
yeah,
find
yeah,
out.
yeah.
Should we talk a bit about how we know each other?
Yes.
So we met in the early...
We met in the early 90s.
90s.
I met you through your brother, who I shacked up with for 7 years.
Yeah.
So I'd been in drama college, and just before that, I'd been in drama college and the Dublin School of Acting, which they used to call the Dublin School of Motoring, because it was so shit. And it was a part-time drama course. It was at the weekends. I mean, how ridiculous, Friday, Saturday and Sunday. So, but I met loads of great people, and anyway, I wanted to be a serious actress. And I always remember I was going out with a guy called Jerry Lee, and it was a Wednesday.
Yeah.
And we were walking down through Grafton Street on a date. We were on a date.
Yeah.
And he was like, where do we go now? And I was like, I don't know, wherever you'd like to go. I think it was 23, something like that, 24.
Yeah.
And he said, oh, it's Wednesday, it's 7:45, we'll go to the Comedy Cellar. And I went, the what? And he went, don't tell me you've never heard.
Wow, that was the beginning of you and the whole thing with comedy.
Because
Wow.
I just remember the night so clearly. And we walked up the stairs, I was like, what am I going to say? I really hadn't seen live, quote unquote, alternative comedy before in Dublin. I really hadn't seen, I didn't know what was going on. I didn't have a clue about this brilliant scene.
And what year was this again? 93? 92.
Yeah, and I know the Cellar had been going since, what, 89?
88, 89.
88, 89.
Yeah.
I had just kind of moved into town. I was kind of in drama college. I was just really having fun. And I remember walking up the stairs and sitting down and just didn't have a clue, didn't know what to expect. And I saw Mr. Trellis, and I just was so... It was just like this moment of going, I just want to do this.
And Mr. Trellis was my brother Kevin, Barry Murphy
And Ardla
Hanlon.
Yeah. And I just remember their Tales of the Unexpected sketch. I remember the...
Do. And they would throw in...
Yeah, and then recently Barry Murphy said I fucking hated that sketch because I used to have to clean up the cards. I was the one that had to clean up the cards after the show, and I used to hate doing it because for that reason. And it was just so inspiring. I remember this feeling of, oh, wow, this is, I don't want to do Shakespeare anymore.
That is an amazing...
I don't want to do any of the... we had been doing all the genres in theatre, and there was something not clicking with me in drama college. I was going, I know I want to perform, but do I want to do plays?
I had the same thing in England.
Do I want to do plays? Yeah. And so I remember then after that, just feeling... I was down there every single Wednesday. Ended up going out with your brother.
I always remember you telling me that you went along one night with your friend, the Mary Kate.
Oh, yeah.
God rest her soul.
Yeah.
Beautiful girl. And you said, I fancy one of those guys. And she went, oh, who did she say first?
The
tall one, Barry. Oh, the tall one.
No.
And you went, no. And he went, oh, the other one. And you went, no.
She went, him? Yeah, no.
Kevin had a wildness about him.
Yeah. So that happened, and then how I started was there's another comedian, Eddie Bannon. Eddie now lives in Australia for years and years, but he really wanted to get into comedy, and he was working in the customs house. the Customs House on the Quays at the time, full time. He's like, how I'd love to do improv, I'd love to do a bit of, and we became friends. And I remember going up to the City Arts Centre where the improv were doing their workshops every Tuesday and Thursday evening, and Dylan Moran was there, Conor Lambert, Mark Staunton, Michelle Reid. I didn't know Michelle, our very, very good friend at the time. And just a bunch of people all excited and doing improv. Myself and Eddie knocking on the door of this brilliant room, which you wouldn't get now. You wouldn't.
No, I'm actually, it's making me sad. Remember, because the City Arts Centre was such an amazing location, and I remember when I moved back to Dublin, going up to that workshop too.
I'm feeling so welcomed.
So welcome, but it was the beginnings of comedy, and everybody was so full of energy.
And the stakes weren't as high.
The stakes weren't high, and now sometimes. I think people are so aware. It could be this, it could be that, and there's a bit of the.
Yeah.
There was none of that. It was sheer creativity.
Yeah. Will you pass us the rose-tinted glasses there, Paul? There's 2 huge pairs of rose-tinted glasses that I'd like to put on. No, it was amazing. It will never happen again. No, but it's shit now, and it was wonderful then. No,
okay, can we just have a time out for me to just say one comment about...
Don't bang chairs and sofas and stuff.
One thing that my friend Larissa in London says about Sue, that Sue Collins could read the phone book and it would be funny, which is why I've been so looking forward to this interview, because you are just the funniest person I know.
Thank you, Anne.
So, continue.
So myself and with trepidation, myself and Eddie Bannon, I remember going, will we knock? Have they started doing the workshop yet? And we knocked and we went, hi. Said, oh yeah, I met you down the cellar, and I met you, and yeah. And I joined the improv, and they weren't performing live at the time, so it was very shortly after that we actually started to do the International on a Monday evening.
Yeah.
So essentially, even though I didn't do the improv long term, because I kind of put myself into a little weird box of it wasn't really my vehicle.
Although I met Dylan recently. We just bumped into. I just had a pint with him, and I was talking about what I loved in the Nualas working with you was your insane commitment to character. Like, you stepped on stage as that no nonsense Nuala, and you never came out of it. And I was saying to Dylan that I just enjoy, whatever was going on, I could just look at Sue and just enjoy that ludicrous commitment. Made me laugh so much. And he said he enjoyed the same thing working with you in the improv. He was talking about one particular sketch you did where you just wouldn't budge on this character, and that I love that kind of comedy.
Yeah.
I think the comedy improv was always very gag based, and I remember being down in the Kilkenny Cat Laughs, and there was some improvisers over from Chicago, and they ran a workshop, and I remember absolutely loving it because it was more commitment to character and really being in the scenario, and there was more that kind of flow. The Dublin comedy improv is superb. I mean, it's very always
brilliant.
go for the super guy. They are world class.
We only saw them recently. You and I went down to their show, a couple of months ago. It was amazing.
Michelle Reid. Kevin.
Yeah.
Joe Rooney, Paul Tylak, Sharon Mannion, Danny Keogh.
Amazing.
Graham. We saw them in the project.
Yeah.
Graham, what's his name? Graham Singleton.
Thank God.
He's an actor, and he brings that superb acting thing.
So talented.
They're also. I hope I haven't missed out any of them. Mentioning them there.
Joe Rooney, Paul Tylak, does he still do it? It's been going for years and years. But I remember back then we set up. Well, I was part of this setting up of the improv in the International on a Monday, and that was it. That was it. I was in the first show they ever did. But I found it really hard.
Yeah, but that's the gag thing, because I having worked with you for years, I know that your commitment comes through character, not through seeing the gag.
Yeah.
But this is a lesson for any performer who has an instinct towards doing stuff, that you might be ploughing one furrow and going, oh, it's not quite working, but follow your instinct, because it might be another slightly different thing, because then we met.
Yes, and exactly, and that was like that was in Drumcondra. Well, no, we met first, and then
we met first. We knew each other, and then we were at a party together in. It was 1995, and it was May, and I remember this. I had moved back from London, and I had got my first big, lucrative professional job. I'd done 4.5 months of telly in RTE.
Yeah.
It had just ended, and I was going, oh my God. I was like, am I going back to no money again?
Yeah.
And then we were at this party, and we met with Tara.
Yeah.
Now, Tara had been doing improv somewhere else.
She was doing improv with a crowd called Evil Donach, which Evil Donuts, they used to call it.
Is that it? Evil Donach,
and they did. I worked with Evil Donach as well, because they used to do kids theatre, and I did an awful lot of kids theatre with them back in the day while I was in drama college. And they were doing an improv night, and Tara had done improv, so she was in that whole kind of comedy thing. She's funny.
She's very funny woman.
Very funny. And I remember that night, she won't mind me saying, she was devastated because she was going through a breakup with her boyfriend. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
She'd been crying on the stairs. I think it was the stars aligned. I was thinking about this earlier on. I was going, what are we going to talk about? But I was thinking about this because my mother had died as well 6 months prior to that. So I was kind of, we were obviously.
If you don't mind, I also want to go back and talk about that.
Oh,
but
yeah.
But
so so she was coming, and I remember her coming into the kitchen and going, fuck him. What am I crying for? And I was going, Tara. Yeah, she was going, that's it, I've had it. And she was in this crazy mood.
And then we started singing.
She's a great singer too.
She's
and you're a wonderful singer.
She's world class.
And and then her voices, and then I just remember this one moment. We were messing around and we were improvising the songs and then harmonies, and then she did this one thing, or was it you did it at the very end before we said goodnight? Salad bowl with let us pray.
Yeah. And then
there was this funny thing, and then I remember the two of us got into a taxi, and she just shouted from the door, "Do you want to meet up and see does this work when we're sober?" Do you remember that moment? Do you remember that? She went, "Do you want to meet up and see does this work when we're sober? I think it could be something," and we did. We met up. We were all living very near each other, and that was it. And that was that first kind of chunk of time.
That was May. We met. We quickly wrote 3 songs, and then the Hairy Bowsy said, "Come and do a gig with us in Eamon Doran's in Temple Bar." And we got our first review, and I actually have it. I'm going to post it.
Hot press, wasn't it?
It was hot press. Wilson Phillips
to cut out and keep.
From our first gig.
Yeah.
And because I had been hacking around on the London circuit for years, I kind of got this feeling as soon as we got on stage, this is it. And
yeah. It was very original. It was the whole thing was really organic, and I remember Barry Murphy seeing us for the first time in when we got a gig then. We did a gig then in the International after that, and him kind of just going, "Oh, I'm just getting shivers. It's like Trellis. It's like the first time we did it, a Trellis sketch. The same, energy and feel. It was original. It was very unique."
Right. I always remember being down the cellar trying out a song. I love this kind of comedy energy. We had a song called Satan's Cow, and
there was a cowbell.
Yeah, and it had
surprise.
But I think you really got this. Like, I grew up on a farm, so I got this. Is that there's a lonely farmer who's a bit mad, and the bullock stands on his ankle. My poor sister had a bullock
stand on her ankle. Is that
a bullock stood on my sister's ankle?
I never knew where this song came from.
When she was a kid, and she says a sore ankle to this day, because it was like, you never went to the hospital to check out, is there anything wrong?
Yeah.
What not? Just 20 miles away.
You'll be grand.
But bullocks can very easily just stand on you if you're not careful. But this farmer, a bullock stands on his foot, and he goes, "It's Satan's cow." he says the cow is satanic. And it was
Yeah.
And I remember us trying that out and just being on stage with the two of you, and we all found it the funny. And I remember
funniest
that
thing
thing
ever.
where you're just wetting your knickers and you're almost hyperventilating. You find it so funny, and the audience find it funny. Those moments. Oh, I do comedy.
Yeah.
And I also remember. Do you remember a producer? He's since passed away, called John Pigeon, a BBC producer. I remember him coming over to interview us, and we were in a studio, and he got the Nualas so well that he was asking us really serious questions.
Yeah.
But we didn't know he was. I remember again in that studio that comedy flow where. It was the best comedy flow I ever experienced in my life. It's what you want.
Yeah. Yeah, it's why you do it. It's just it's fantastic when
I
that happens.
do get emotional when I think back to those days because it was magic.
Yeah, always. I mean, it was unbelievable what happened, really. And then, I mean, we went to Edinburgh,
And we were young. We were in our 20s.
we were in our 20s. Jeannie Mac. It just all happened really quickly. Next thing we were in
After we'd
Edinburgh.
put in the work. I mean,
Oh, no, we worked hard.
You know, like
Yeah.
I've been 7 years hacking away on the breadline. You know, I mean, we'd all had a commitment to we want to be performers.
Oh yeah, we knew what it took, and I think just going back to the places we were in as well. I think because I just threw myself into work. I think as a reaction to my mother's death, you know, and that really.
Tell us about that.
So well, it's 32 years ago now. Can you believe it?
Can I tell you one memory I have about that? Because I was just getting to know you, and your mother's body was laid out in the front room of your brother's house. And I just was so impressed by your strength because you said, come in and look at mummy.
Yeah.
And then you were just so strong, and you were touching her lips and going, oh, is the lipstick okay?
Yeah,
And you were just so strong and just lovingly touching her.
Well,
And your father had passed away when you were 19.
Yeah.
So you were used.
Well, it's a very unusual situation, and it's funny. I met a friend of mine for a drink there recently, and I don't really know her that well. She's actually another mum, and she just went, "Why don't we have a drink?" So I didn't really know her background, and she said to me, "Oh, I had an unusual time in my 20s because my father died when I was 21 and my mother died when I was 28." And I went, "You're joking." I said, "That's kind of mirror image of I was 19 and 25.
Tell us about your parents. Who were your parents?
So who are my parents? So mummy,
Because they were quite extraordinary people.
yeah, they were like mum. So they had. So yeah. So I came from an unusual background. First for a proddy in southern, in South Dublin. 5% of us, and it was quite. Yeah, my mother came from a kind of Scottish Presbyterian background. She grew up in Troon in Ayrshire. She had a very strict upbringing. She was kind of quite a damaged person.
Yeah.
She had a tough upbringing. My grandfather was tough. She was given the violin when she was about 4, and that was it. She was sort of told that she was a very talented violinist, and she was really, really, she became really good.
And your grandfather had a band, so she was.
He had a dance band, and it was very abusive. He used to bring her around to the dance halls at a very young age, completely inappropriate. So she was very young, and she'd have to go out every night and get up for school in the morning. And do you know what made me really sad? She used to say to me that because she didn't have any friends or any proper life, and she used to have a Woodbine cigarette and a bar of chocolate every night out the window after playing all night in these smoky, rooms.
And what
with
age are we
adults.
talking? Give us an age.
14. Smoky rooms, very, very, really not good. My grandfather was a tough man.
In Scotland.
In Scotland, he was a butcher. He was a butcher. He was a car salesman. He had his finger in every pie. He was a tax dodger. He was a real boyo. And he was also very strict. I mean, himself and his son, my Uncle Jerry, were estranged for practically Jerry's whole life. Jerry's still alive. He's in his 80s.
Jerry's a pilot.
Jerry's a pilot. So they were real achievers. I think what happened was he, as my mother would say, my mother was plucked from the tenements. And my grandfather came along and fell in love with this girl who was literally grew up in the tenements in
That's
Troon.
your grandmother?
My grandmother, who I never met, she died young as well. But so she had notions about herself, and she was never going to be anything. But by Jesus, her daughter and her son were going to be. So they
And
were.
they
sent
were.
Yeah, and they were. And she was sent. Mummy was sent to elocution lessons, horse riding, the whole lot. And she used to say, when I met your father, I used to have to tell him, which spoon to use and how to do this, that, and the other, So she was, and then Jerry was put through his pilot, got his pilot license.
Because he had an amazing career too. Because he worked.
Yeah,
for...
he worked for Aer Lingus back in the day when you were a captain of Aer Lingus was something. It's a bit like every second person's work, don't you know? But then
before there were bus drivers in the sky.
Yeah. But then he went off.
But then he worked for an oil barn for years and made a lot of money.
Yeah.
But I never asked questions about that time in his life. All I know is he made a fortune. So he became a very wealthy man, and he's retired now in France. But so mummy just had this very strict and then it was again my father then grew up in Portadown, so he came from a Baptist background. Not as strict, but very sort of. His father was a viola teacher and taught students in the wee front room. They were real working class, very little money, but they'd 5
That's
children.
interesting, real working class, but musicians. Because they're both they went to the highest level as classical musicians. I have this thing in my head that to be a classical musician is very middle class. No, from that era.
It does have that, yeah. I mean, just from growing up with it, the audiences are middle class, but not necessarily the musicians,
But before we get on to your dad, tell me the amazing story of your mum. So your mum was doing the dance band, and then they moved in the middle of the night.
Yeah, she was woken up in the middle of the night to get on. to get on a boat and sail to Ireland because of tax.
That's Mike. Yeah.
Because of tax, because Granddad Bill was being a naughty man.
So
and
you moved
the
out?
revenue were after him, and she remembers going on the boat in the middle of the night with stockings, nylon stockings down her pants, because they were very sought after at the time, and she was smuggling these.
What year would this be?
She would have been about 16, 17.
So it would have been.
So she was born in 36.
Oh,
46,
okay, yeah, 36. Okay, so you're talking 50s, yeah.
Yeah, early 50s. So lo and behold, an audition for the Light Orchestra, which was then known as the Light Orchestra, came up. And she, as rank and filers, they were very young. Daddy was a bit older than her. She would have been about 23, 24 at the time. They both went for the auditions, and they both got the auditions. So they were plonked in Dublin. Daddy came down to Dublin.
So your mother was playing the violin in the band, but she obviously had classical training all through.
She got classical training. She actually trained with a guy called Vanacek, who was this amazing tutor. So she was very lucky to train with him.
In Dublin?
Yeah. So they landed in Dublin, and then a position came up in the Light Orchestra, which then turned into the concert. It was known as the Concert Orchestra then after that, and Daddy got the audition then for the viola section, and that's where they met. So there's a great photograph actually in the house of my mother right at the back of the section, looking about 12.
What age would she be? 17?
17, 18, yeah. She literally looked about 12 in the photo, and Daddy's in the viola section, and then she became the leader of that orchestra, and then she led all the orchestras then after that.
Yeah, because she became the leader of all of them. Yeah.
Yeah, she led all, as her good friend would say, sure, your mammy led all the orchestras in the country for all 3 of them. No, but
your mother was an exceptional musician. Like, she could have been an international soloist, couldn't she?
Yeah, they say that she kind of came out of the womb like knowing how to play Mozart. She just was instinctive in that way, whereas a lot of people would have to be taught how to approach the different composers. She actually just knew innately how to play, especially Mozart. Yeah.
And what music did she enjoy at home?
Oh, do you know something, Paul? They didn't listen to music. They just didn't. It was so all consuming. They just were so funny. They were 24 hours a day together. They just were so hilarious. They went to work. They played. If Mummy had a solo, because she used to do solos within, at certain points, she'd practice for that. And otherwise, they just sat and ate almond tart, and they had such a funny life. They drove around. I mean, they could have had we could have been living in a different house. Not that I loved where I grew up and I'm very grateful for it, but we could have been living in a much bigger house. We could have had a much bigger... My daddy drove a Ford Fiesta all his life, and it had to be German assembled. I love that. And they had this really simple life. They'd 5 kids, and they, it was a bit crazy. So my upbringing was a little bit feral. Yeah. There was definitely a bit of neglect. I think my mother was suffering from depression a lot of the time, which she hid very well. And back in the day, of course, nobody talked about depression. Oh, that was just taboo.
The anecdotal thing I get from your mum and from having met some of the other people who were in the orchestra at that time was your mother was glamorous. You have a story of the manager of the orchestra saying, "No, Audrey, get back to the dressing room. You're not going on stage in that." What was it? It was like low cut feathers.
So the uniform for the orchestra, which is is compulsory and very strict, is long black. Yeah. Long black for the ladies, and black tie for the men. So she came in pantaloons. See-through, that sort of see-through material. What do they call it?
Chiffon.
Kind of chiffon with, I'll never forget it actually, black feathers sewed on, and black feathers, all this shimmer. Actually, they were amazing. Sewed onto these pantaloons, and she kind of wafted down the corridor that, in these
The National Concert Hall, was it?
The National Concert Hall, and the orchestra manager, a little fella with grey short hair, said, "Audrey Park, you cannot go on the stage with those. Get back into the dressing room and find something else to wear." And she, whatever charm she had, she got away with it that night apparently, and she went on stage with them. But she was she was very...
And she was loved, and she was an extraordinary leader. And I also heard that she was also the social centre of that group. She was great at organising parties.
She used to have great parties. She used to have a party on Rabbi Barron's night. So for him, 30th of November, I think, she'd have a party in the house. People had to arrive in kilts and all that kind of stuff. So she was a really nice person, and she was a real party person. But she was quite damaged, and she probably, she wasn't the most maternal person in the world. She just wasn't, and that was just the way she was. And luckily my father was...
What question?
Yes, go on. Yeah.
What was she like as a friend?
Friend to me.
Yeah.
Well, Paul, my father, she died when I was 25, and the sad thing about the whole thing was when my father died at 19, we became friends, because I was I was becoming an adult. She had me, and we did an awful lot together after that. So that's the sad part. I think we were really getting to know each other, and we got on a lot better at that point. So she was a contradiction, she was a very complex person. She was a high achiever. There was definitely abuse of some sort when she was a kid, which is sad. It had been mentioned a few times. You don't know the details, but as I said, she was in adult situations at an early age. There was big parties. My grandfather was a big party person, and he used to have these wild parties in the house also. So, stuff happened, and I don't think she ever really got over it. And I think that the only way she knew how to deal with it was to completely plough her whole life into her work. So she was really identified by her talent, her playing, and not by her home life. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but it also says a lot about you at that age because you're the one who addressed things more so than it seems that your mother did. Your own maturity is what made things happen after that.
It's really funny because people have often said, oh, you know, and also with the grief that I went through, which is really unusual. I mean, I spent a lot of my 20s, late 20s, you know, with a shocked look on people's faces, go, oh, and your parents, what did they, oh, they're both dead. What? You know, it was a bit of a shitty card to be dealt, you know, that they both went, you know, before I was 25, orphaned, and I had two younger siblings as well, so quite an unusual situation, but it has given me, yes, it's made me very strong. I'm extremely independent. You know, when I look back and I just, you know, I used to, like, I went off to Italy on my own to work. I went off to London to work, travelled on my own everywhere. I never felt this. When I listen to the kids now going, oh, I don't think I could do that. You know, I shared this room. I remember sharing a room in Italy in a basement with 4 other girls up at 6 working in, you know, the hotel, hard work.
And having to pick up Italian.
And all the jobs we often talk about, you know, all the hard, tough jobs we had to survive. And also when my mother died, there was a whole other story. We were left with nothing. We didn't have any inheritance of any type. So you were on your own, like you were really on your own.
I think one thing I loved about you, maturity, was that, like, I would get devastated or overwhelmed by stuff that happened in the Nualas because the stakes were big for us because we could see that we could have been massive. But you used to always just, you had a real measured thing, and I think it came from the 2 bereavements, that you just had this perspective.
Yeah, I suppose it's like anything in life, you know, we go through trauma. I think, you know, and that's life. That's why we've been put on the earth, and it's if you can manage, very, very difficult thing to do, if you can manage to convince yourself to realise that it's personal growth is what you have to get from that. And I mean, I've spoken to people who've been through so much in their lives, come out the other end, and they're now grateful for the experience because they are completely different people. They're completely different people. So life is shit. Like, life is really, really hard. But you know that people go, oh my gosh, the double whammy of the grief. But don't forget, I was young, like, as well. And it's funny, when I met that friend who'd been through exactly the same thing, I went, how did you cope? How did you get on? And she said exactly that. We both agreed on this. We were young. We had plans. We were full.
There was resilience.
Yeah.
Yes. And we didn't, it was happening to us, you know. It's like a kid going, when you hear, oh, I grew up in poverty, but sure, I didn't know.
You didn't know anything else, yeah.
No, I had nothing to compare it to, and it was my story, you know what I mean? And I think, I get that kind of confidence and resilience. I definitely think I would have been screwed if it hadn't been for my father.
I was about to ask you, tell us about, because I always thought, is this true that some of your sensibility around comedy comes from your dad and the aesthetic that he loved? Because he loved the English. He was from Portadown, Portadown Baptist, but he loved English comedy, didn't he?
Oh, he loved Morecambe and Wise. I mean, he used to do the glasses and everything going around, you know, and do the dance.
And I love your story about your parents that for summer holidays, your mother would love to go to Bellamedema and just lie in the sun, but your dad loved places like Clondudno.
He had us in Clondudno, or
like my mum.
I remember staying in the worst hip in Margate, where, because there was a railway convention, he used to love model railways, and he went off to his railway things, and Mummy was they were awful holidays. I hated them. So they used to have a deal where she'd do the cheap holiday, and you know, we used to go for a month because it was cheaper. Back then, if you booked a month in a package holiday, you got it for that's why it was.
So you'd have a month in Bellamedina, but then the following year be a month in
rainy, England somewhere,
like Viz level, your Viz holiday.
Yeah.
But tell us about your daddy.
So he came from such a wonderful background. His parents were wonderful. His mother especially was one of those absolutely gorgeous mammy types, and I just remember going up to the north, going up to Portadown, back and forth, which is also kind of an interesting experience, getting stopped, car
Tell us
searched.
about that. You told me a bit about that. I didn't have much. We all knew the border was there, but you were going across it all the time.
Yeah. All the questioning, opening the boot, looking through the suitcases, having to get out of the car sometimes, all that kind of stuff. And then as kids, you know, every time we passed the pub, the most bombed pub, the pub was bombed 20 times as you come into Portadown on the right hand side. I can't remember it, but all that kind of stuff. And then my brothers were sent up the north to live with my grandparents for 7 years at a very early age, which is very unusual for our generation. It would have happened to the generation before, because that was quite traumatic for them. So that's a whole other story as well, which feeds into I think my mother's trauma.
Yeah. Your parents were young, or they were really busy in the orchestra, or they...
Well, I think, you know, that question has never been answered. It's been asked many times, but as you find sometimes when you ask your parents, why did this happen, why did that, there's a real... My mother always used to, it was the real evasion. I was like, you know, oh, what are you talking about? So my poor brothers never really got a proper answer to that question. But
they were sent away when they were young, and they lived.
They were sent. They were going to go to a boarding school, and my grandmother begged them not to send them to the boarding school up there. So they went to go and live with my grandparents between the age of 5 and the age of 12. Yeah.
So they were reared in Portadown.
They were reared in Portadown. So, you know, it wasn't ideal. You know what I mean? They had a tough time up there.
How did they feel about it later when they got older?
You know, one of them fared better with that than the other. The eldest, he's great. He lives in Australia. He went to Australia when he was 21, but he's you know, big. He got into trouble with the booze, and he's recovering alcoholic, but he's, you know, about 27 years sober now. So he has a wonderful life. Became very successful in Melbourne, but they never quite understood why, and they don't really have answers to it, and I think that was kind of very tough for both of them, you know. The second born, the other brother, they were like twins. They were Irish twins. He's fared a lot better, but his makeup is he's a very strong man, and he kind of has really come to terms with it.
It's Graham.
Yeah. Graham. But they wouldn't have seen my parents, you know, between sort of September and May, you know. They only saw them in the summertime, you know. So there was my take on it, and my what I think happened is, I think that my mother was suffering from depression. I think she had 2 small boys and a very demanding career, and I think that she probably wasn't fit. Yeah. To be totally honest, and I don't think that was ever said, but there was snippets of stories of moments that you hear growing up that were such and such happened, and there was, you know. So I think that she had a tough time when she was a kid, and I don't think that was ever really dealt with. And then I think when she was faced with the stress of everything, I think that's what happened. Anyway, look, they're all living to tell the tale, and particularly, so they went through that, and then they had the grief of the early death of my parents. But, you know, there's 5 of us, we were all done really, really well, and we're all very strong people. Yeah. You know, so that's life. And so Daddy was the rock. Daddy got us up every morning. That was the other thing, my mother couldn't face the morning.
He was from Portadown. His father was a viola teacher. So he was playing, and then he obviously had a huge natural talent. They
used to have the orchestras in the schools up there. They had the different schooling system, obviously, to here. We didn't have that. That only came in. It actually came in when my kids were in primary there a little bit. They had full orchestras. It was free.
I know, that was in England. The education in England was amazing. I think some of that has gone a bit, but you could have an instrument. You'd get a musical education at school.
He found himself in the school orchestra at a very young age. What an amazing! I mean, you put them right in there, And
how come he ended up being down in Dublin?
Because of the light orchestra audition, the place came up.
Okay, yeah.
The place came up.
And there was no sense of you don't want to go down there, or there wasn't the trouble. It was before the Troubles, so there wasn't.
It would have been 19. He was 30, born 1930, let's say. So it would have been 1953.
So there wouldn't have been that sense of division that kind of grew up then with the Troubles.
Yeah, I think it was perfectly. You know, they were. I mean, their family and were always incredibly proud of Mummy and Daddy. You know, it was like, oh, Audrey and Archie were the ones that really made. You know that. You know what I mean. So their family they all went into the arts.
Did they? Wow, yeah.
They all. My uncle was a painter. My uncle Tom, Uncle Billy became the head of the arts.
Tom is a painter.
Tom's since passed away. They're all. There's only two out of the five alive. My auntie Anne is a singer, and she's a teacher now, but she was a singer and a guitar player. She was a country west. She kind of had a country band with her husband, who has since died. And then there was only one didn't. My other uncle Cyril is a detective, or was. He's retired now. So they were all in the arts. That was their kind of little world. So obviously, when Daddy went down to Dublin and got the audition for the viola section in the light orchestra, wow, big deal.
Yeah.
But his upbringing was so sort of secure. You know, his mummy and daddy were gorgeous people, very, very, very comforting people, and he was a big family man, big family man. So he really, you know, he really brought us up, I think, with all those values and that security. So that's where I get my confidence from.
And you were just saying there about you.
Yeah. So Daddy was the rock, I think, growing up. You know, but I was just reminded there. They met in the orchestra, obviously, and fell in love. But he wasn't accepted. They just thought he was a poor musician. And even though, this is what I'm saying about her
Audrey's
mother.
family.
Yeah. So they had money at the time, and when they came back to Dublin, they landed. They had a house in Brighton Road in Foxrock.
Oh wow.
So they'd airs and graces, even though they didn't come. So they'd airs and graces, and my mother thought that Daddy was not good enough for her daughter.
Oh, your grandmother.
It's my grandmother. Sorry, yeah. My grandmother thought. So she tells a story of. So they wanted to be together, and you know, my mother was a very strong personality. So she told me the story of getting all her belongings, putting them in a blanket, tying up the blanket, and going and dragging the blanket over to the bus stop. She hadn't been on a bus, because she was given her own car and everything at that time.
Wow. Yeah.
And she got on the 84, which I think still exists, out to Bray or somewhere. And Daddy was meeting her at the other bus stop. And they got a flat on Hatch Street, their first flat on Hatch Street, and she was disowned. She was disowned.
Oh, she moved in with him?
Yeah.
Now that is amazing strength of character.
Yeah. So they moved in, and she was disowned, and she wasn't spoken to for 2 or 3 years. And then she had Angus, my older brother, and the story goes that it was Christmas, still nothing, but it was in the paper, so she knew that they knew. And oh yes, this is what it was. Angus's birthday is in October, so it would have been that November, that Christmas. And she tells the story. Mummy came in with the Christmas tree, and she was putting the Christmas tree up in the flat in Hatch Street, and she saw a navy leather handbag on the table.
Yeah.
And she went, there's only one person I know always has a navy leather handbag, and that's her mother. Yeah. And her mother couldn't cope anymore when she saw
That she had a grandson.
The notice, in the paper, Angus Collins born on blah blah blah, and she crumbled and came and saw her grandson, and that was it. So so that's a really nice story. And then and then I think my mother kind of got her relationship back with her father.
They eloped then, did they, when they got married?
Yeah. And yes, there was only a couple of people at their wedding. David Lillis, I remember, was one of them, a fellow from the orchestra who was at their registry office wedding, and that was that. But she sort of slowly, reunited with her father after that. They had a kind of an odd relationship, I guess, from her childhood, and he softened, as he got older, and we then were I remember have memories of going over to his house, so we had a relationship with him, and he had remarried at that point.
How did you get on with him?
With my grandfather?
Brother, yeah.
Yeah, I was young enough when he died, so I just remember him as this jolly man. He owned a garage in Dalkey, and the boys used to go out and work for him actually, and when they were teenagers, and he married a lovely woman called Nolan, who's still alive, because she was quite a bit younger than him, and he was just this jolly fellow who played piano. He was a great pianist, and that's how he met his second wife. She was a great singer, and they kind of they got together. So he was a different person, he was a different man back.
But you were really close to your father, more so than your mum.
So I think Mummy was, the antithesis of the Irish mammy. Like, she just didn't have. That was who she was. So She's
the leader of the orchestra.
At my age now, you can forgive her. You know what I mean? But she couldn't. She wasn't able to be around for us really. And for whatever reason, but. My father and I had a great laugh. We used to have great fun together. And
he used to get up in the morning with you for school and
He
stuff.
would get up in the morning with us, make us our breakfast and bring us to school every single morning. And he was always there in that kind of very, very, very secure kind of feeling with him. But he was also very, very funny, and he used to make them laugh in the orchestra. They'd all be crying laughing in the orchestra. He'd only say, but he was really subtle. He'd kind of say it at the corner of his mouth, and it was usually about a conductor going, it'd be something like, I think he's had a few drinks, and they'd all be crying laughing, and so obviously it's quite a blow. Then I was actually in Italy at the time. I was 19, working in Italy, and I got a call then from my mother to say he was sick. So that was like, the bomb had dropped, and I came home quite quickly after that. I was having a great time, but anyway, I came home, and I nursed him a lot. He was given a year. He had a brain tumor. He was given a year.
Was it a brain cancer he had?
It was a tumor, and he that was it. And it was a year to the day of his diagnosis. But I was very great. I was around. I stayed around. I wanted to nurse him. We nursed him at home. He never went into a hospice. He died at home. And I think that my mother really, looking back, went off the rails. Completely went off the rails. She just couldn't cope, because she was a bit of a loose cannon. She was quite wild. He was her rock. They were yin and yang. He had her on a leash. And that's why it worked. And he was just completely besotted with her, and I don't know how he put up with her. I mean, I really don't know how he put up with her. She was quite unhinged, and just she would have been difficult enough. So that she was completely rudderless, that her rock had gone, and that we were then, it felt like minding a child, that another child had sort of appeared in the family after that. She did crazy stuff, and she started drinking, and she did keep up her work for a while, but I don't know what was gonna, Anyway, she got ill. She was diagnosed then with ovarian cancer, and
What age was she when she was diagnosed?
56. So I've just turned 57. So that was kind of like, we always said if we get past 56, or any problems, grand.
56. And what age was she when she passed away?
So she got 2 years. It was the same feeling of she was diagnosed and she got she was literally her the consultant said I would say 24 months, and again to the month. But she, it was just awful really, because she was so full of life and so kind of gregarious, so vibrant and everything. To see her kind of get sick was nearly worse in a weird way. But I always say, and to this will always say, she died from grief. Her cancer came from grief. Always.
Yeah.
Always. So look, that was it. And yeah. But I mean, she wasn't one she hated getting old. I mean, she hated wrinkles. She hated the idea. She was very glamorous, and she used to look in the mirror and do that all the time. Everything was, you know what I mean? And so, is there a positive out of all of this? I don't know.
Well, I knew you during that time when your mum was ill. And
tell me something about your mother that you actually loved.
Oh, that's a very good question, Paul. Tell me something about my mother that I loved. She never, she never controlled any of us. She was never controlling. She was never, she gave us a lot of freedom.
But that could have been too much if it wasn't for the fact your dad had a balance, because he created the order. It was sunny side up. Oh, it was sunny side up. You don't go to work with a gloomy face. It was that generation.
You had that. But I was going to say, like, knowing you through all that time, you were so strong and so focused.
Yeah.
Like working on the shows or whatever, you're laser focused.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's hard to know what you get from who. What when you think about your life or whatever. But I mean, her work ethic was amazing. She was great fun. She was very well loved. There was great qualities. I guess I'm at an age now where I've forgiven her for a lot of stuff. I understand her more. Obviously bits of info and things have come in through the years that the pieces of the puzzle, I think, I've gathered the pieces of that puzzle, and I've completed the puzzle there. So once you do that,
an interesting circle there, isn't it? When you've come to terms with who your parents were.
Yeah.
I mean, my mother died a year ago.
Yeah.
And she was all sorts of things. She could be a real pain. And what you're talking about reminded me that the moments you remember as a kid, and then you look back at them as an adult, and they reflect something else.
Yeah.
My mother had a lot of depression. There's no doubt about it.
Yes.
And she dealt with a disabled daughter and all that. So,
it's tough.
But you're always qualifying. You feel like you're, as you said earlier, you're a kid, so you are what you have.
Yeah.
And you don't review it based on the rest of the world.
Yeah.
So you take on board an awful lot.
You do, and I think it's okay as well to say, like, I mean, there's stuff that I'll never forgive her for. You know what I mean? And I mean, it might seem like she never came to fucking anything I was in school, for example, nothing. I had a great voice, and I was always getting really big parts in the school concert because of my voice, and I had a lovely high voice back then, and.
Did she have an excuse? Would she say,
no,
I was busy?
No. I tell you, what their excuse was? Daddy always had a bad back. And they always used to say that Daddy couldn't sit in those seats for too long. And they used to pretend they were coming, and then they'd never show up. And that was horrific. And I think, like, I have 4 kids, and I think, my God, I didn't miss a single flipping thing they were in. If they'd one line in a play going, oh... oh, it's Prince John. Oh, that was wonderful. Did you see the way he said that? Did you see the way he said Prince John? I'd be crying, like crying before they come on the stage. You know, I remember getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning to get a really early, doing a gig. I haven't done a gig in Cork, and getting up so early to get the train back up to Dublin to be in time for the concert that was on at what we give our kids now. Is
And you know the story about you being ill and your mum going, "Come on, you're going to school," and tell the rest of the story. The teacher said,
"Oh, I had pneumonia." Yeah, we were.
And
sent
you
to
ended up in
school.
hospital.
Yeah, and my brother was sent to school with appendicitis.
So your mother had no medical skills whatsoever.
Your brother was sent to school with appendicitis. Wow.
So look, there was we call it neglect. But look, we're grand, you know. It was.
There was a thing in our generation of get on with it, and it is interesting to see in the new generation the.
What's wrong with you? Oh, she's a cold. Don't go in. Yeah.
I just had a thing like that recently with somebody. I was setting up, kind of trying to help them with a job thing, and I went, "So are you okay for that?" Well, I've got period pain.
Yeah.
And you're like, but what if you get the job? What if you've got period pain then?
Oh, it's insane.
I remember us touring, and we all had a vomiting book. I clearly remember being on stage in this theatre in Brighton and doing a line and running off and vomiting in a bucket and getting back on stage again.
And I did the same in Galway in a show I was in.
Yeah.
And actually I met somebody recently who was in the same show, and she went, "Do you remember you vomiting in the bucket and coming back on to do a scene and going back out and..."
Yeah, but is that just...
No, I know.
Get on with it.
I know. I know.
Yeah.
So that's my life.
So,
It's a bit of it. It's only a bit of it.
you did nurse your father for that last year.
So I nursed him for that last year with Mummy, and yeah.
And you were with him when he passed away.
Yeah, and you know, it was rough. It was rough going. It just felt. I mean, I think it was just that I was the daughter. You know, my little sister was only 9, so you know she had to be minded, and the 2 boys then were older and they had gone away, and I just think they couldn't really cope with the idea of the ins and outs of my nursing somebody who was basically dying in the home. They weren't able for it. You know. So it was obvious that I was.
It's a particular strength to do that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it changed. You know, it was like a baby. He had nappies. He was very, very, very ill. He really shouldn't have been at home. It was a bit ridiculous. We were doing above and beyond, you know, and especially at that age, I think it wasn't really right. You know, it wasn't really right
So what was it like looking after your 9-year-old sister at that stage?
That was tough on them because they were Jesus. If they weren't neglected before that, they were certainly
Jonathan
neglected.
and Jane, so the 2 youngest.
So my sister would have been 9 and Jonathan would have been 14. Yeah, so he had a tough time. He you know he was as a son. You know, his daddy was going, and then his mother. I mean, I think of all the 5 of us, I think he actually fared the worst. I think the fallout from that is fairly obvious in his adult life.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a tough time, and then we moved after Daddy died. We moved out to the sea. We moved out to Dalkey, and we kind of started a new life out there. We lived out there for a few years. So that was a kind of, I met a load of other people. I went to drama college, and I met a load of another lovely crowd of people out there.
So after your father, you were in Italy, you came back to nurse your dad, you stayed on in Dublin then, did you?
I stayed on in Dublin. I did a stint in London for a couple of months during that time. I came back, I was living in Dalkey.
And then you went, okay, I'm going to be a performer. Yeah.
And then I took acting classes with Rebecca Roper and David Nolan.
Yeah.
And they were great. And I remember them saying, you know, I was doing my pieces, and I remember Rebecca Roper, they reviewed you after the course. It was 8 weeks, and this is before drama college, and she just went, "You've a great voice," and she went, "I don't know, do you realise this, but you're really leaning towards the, you know, the comedy side of things. You have great timing."
Yeah.
And I remember going, what? You know, don't be ridiculous.
Yeah.
And she said, no, I'm telling you. And I went, no, I don't want to be a singer, and I don't want to do comedy. You know, this is before the Cellar moment. And
I find this.
And yeah. And
to talk with your hand.
Yeah.
and then I remember going to a tarot. I was telling someone this story recently. I remember going to a tarot card reader.
Yeah.
Around that same time.
Yeah.
And him saying, doing the cards, and he had this image, and he kept saying, I have an image of a champagne bottle that's about, the cork is about to come off, and I see musical notes and performance and
When was
stage
that?
and musical notes just before the Nualas.
Can I tell you this story?
You sure there wasn't
No.
an anniversary card on the wall behind you?
Now let me
With
do a bit of the
champagne
interview.
and music.
Please.
Now that you mention it.
I want to do a bit of the interview.
Well, you've been doing...
No.
We want to go all woo-woo for a while.
Okay.
Let us go woo-woo.
You went to and he saw music. Can I tell you this? I was on the Jerry Ryan Tonight Show and it was
Yes.
coming to an end, and I was going, Jesus, what am I going to do? And there was a woman on called Betty Palco, and she was famous because she was a clairvoyant, and Princess Diana used to go to her.
Yeah.
And she was doing readings in the RDS, and she went, come, I'll give you a reading. And I said, Betty, I don't know what I'm going to do now. And she went, everything is going to be all right. I see musical notes around you.
And then a flute player started to play the flute behind you. Didn't I tell you? Didn't I tell you there'd be musical notes? Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah.
You know what? Like when you think back to that whole thing of us starting that whole thing.
Yeah.
You do appreciate this age. That was the youth. You don't
tapping
get
the sofa.
You don't get that again.
No, like I mean.
Well, you did have that again with the Dirtbirds.
I did have it again, actually, and you know.
Because when the Nualas ended, but you had another whole.
It's that again is I'm really grateful for that actually, because it's quite rare when that happens.
I know, but it's a measure how bloody brilliant you are.
Well, thank you very much.
I know. I mean, I'm not surprised.
I've got the €100 now. If you want.
I'm not at all surprised. But the Dirtbirds went on to like phenomenal level of success.
Yeah, and I just find it really nice to kind of think back to how. I mean, I remember, you know, obviously myself and Sinead have been in so many different situations, been asked the question on, you know, radio shows and stuff like that. How did it start? But it was that feeling of kind of that lovely sort of. There's nothing. Everything's organic. There's nothing forced.
Yeah.
She'd been doing a gig, and I was doing a gig, doing a character, Carmel, my character, which I was doing at the time.
Love Carmel.
And Carmel was on stage, and both myself and Sinead had really, really good gigs, and you know, and there was a reviewer at that show, and the reviewer wrote in, I think it was in Dublin or one of those mags, about how it was the two women that stood out for me.
Yeah.
And I had the kids, the two boys at that stage, not the twins. The boys were like 3 and 2 or something.
Yeah.
And I just got a phone call. She just rang me out of the blue. I didn't know her.
We weren't doing the Nualas at the time, were we? That was a break in Nuala land.
Yeah, that was. This is way before Dirtbirds.
Yeah, even happened.
Live shows. This was. We wrote a script, a telescript. When we met first, we had no inkling to perform together, to do live stuff together at all. But she just rang out of the blue. I remember it was in the back garden, and the phone, it was the landline phone for some reason.
Yeah.
And I was in the back garden, and the two boys were just roaming around, and it's Sinead Colbert. Who? I didn't know who she was. I knew of her, and she went, oh, just wondering if you'd be interested in, do you need a writing partner? She just decided.
Yeah.
And we met up in the K Cafe in Camden Street, and that was that. And then we wrote a script called Dirtbirds together, and that got championed by a fella called John Rolfe in BBC Three, and that never got made. So that was one of those long drawn out things that we got it was a great time, and we learnt loads, but it was a shame it never got made. Nearly got made. And then in 2016, then we were doing the Nualas. We got the Nualas back. We did the Nualas back together in 2010, right?
Yeah.
So blah, blah, blah. And then 2016, we posted up that sketch.
And it went viral.
And it went viral. That was summer 2016. And it went viral. And it was all these characters. Sinead had that character from Dundalk. The kind of, the beautician, and Andrea from RD.
Yeah.
And we had no idea. We really genuinely posted it up for fun, just to see. And that went viral, and then we realised, okay, we'll do these kind of, and then we started writing sketches.
It's lovely to look at it from there. So really enjoyed watching those characters from the audience. They were like a classic comedy duo. The higher status one, the lower status, and I love the clowning.
Yeah. So Dee and Andrea were I loved Dee and Andrea because it was the blind leading the blind. It was the teacher and the pupil.
Yeah.
But it was, it was Father Ted. It was Father Ted and Dougal. It was, they were both as thick as each other.
I still think they should have had a sitcom.
Oh, we tried. We had treatments and everything in. We had a great idea actually where it was a kind of a shopping centre scenario, but Dee and Andrea were in the beauticians in the shopping centre. And then you could have created other characters who came in and out, or they worked with somebody else.
Yeah.
But they had
I know the little shops. I can see it.
But they never went for any of it. Surprise, surprise.
Who was that? RTE or was it?
Yeah. So, look, we had a great time, and it was great. It was great fun. And they
You're
were
on
great.
a hiatus at the moment.
We're
but
on a
are you
hiatus, yeah. So we've done 4 shows. You know what it's like writing shows. It's so hard. It takes...
The detail is extraordinary.
It's extraordinary. It's very hard to explain to people what's involved, especially if you want it to be fucking really, really good, which, Sinead is a perfectionist as well. And, we put an awful lot of work into it. And it's been, 2016? No good at the maths.
It's 9 years.
Yes,
Just
9
hold
years.
that for thought for a second, please.
I do get sometimes really... Sorry, can I just say this before we I do get really sad when I just remember back to like those early days and the energy and you've kids, so you don't probably go through this because when you have kids...
So, and crying is fish in a barrel, isn't it?
No, but it's just
Fish in
that
a barrel.
thing about getting older and and you just see that perspective of life.
I'm recording all this, by the way.
No, sometimes.
Do you want tissues on?
Sorry, Paul, could you go out and get loads of tissues?
Sorry, I have to.
I'm always ready. Here, have one there. So.
You probably don't get that because you've children, so you have produced the future.
Is that what it is?
I don't know what it is,
Or
but
maybe I'm just a cold hole.
I can really. Can we come back in on this?
Yeah, okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, A, B, C, D,
Can we
E,
come in?
F, G. And can you put your tissue away out of the
Okay,
way?
no. Let me have my tissue. I want to say
recording. It's all being recorded.
it. Okay,
so
are you recording? Okay. Sue, I was just saying, it's just when I remember back, when I remember...
was crying, everybody.
I was crying on the break.
Yeah.
Okay. No,
You're a
but
very emotional person.
I'm
and
very
it's
emotional. I know. I remember one of the first times I met you. It was in a kitchen in Phibsborough, and you told me the story of nursing your father for a year and him passing away.
Yeah.
And I said, and what was that like? And you said your mother came in and said, he's gone. And I was sitting in the kitchen and I was like this. I was heaving, crying. And you were comforting me. And in the middle of that, I was going, this is pathetic.
You were comforting me for the death of your father.
Yeah. And it was the same.
And that was when we really bonded.
Yeah. And it was the same, that thing. It threw it all because I was in floods when I went in to see your mum in the coffin. And I was going, come on, Anne, for God's sake.
Keep it together.
Because you had it so together. And you were just saying, look at her. And it was that is, if I had one essence image of Sue Collins on top of all the world-class comedy and being probably the funniest woman in Ireland, is that strength of character, the absolute strength of you in that moment.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know. There is a Collins thing. It's from my father's side, they say.
Yeah.
My mother was extremely emotional.
Was she?
Oh my God, she was really emotional. Yeah, she was.
That's why you work so well with me.
I know. It's like you marry your mother.
There's times.
Form. Yeah.
I remember like there was some huge things in the news. Like there was one thing where we recorded a video with Pat Egan and we were touring in England and we never got to see it.
Yeah.
And then it was all packaged and ready to go on the market.
Yeah.
And we saw it.
It was shit.
And it was shit. And
was
we
the
had
worst
to
thing.
go into Pat Egan and say, Pat, this is not. And
it was
cost,
Sony.
and it was tens of thousands of euro. And I was in shock. But you were going, no, this is absolutely what we have to do. I remember we said to Pat, excuse me, we have to go out in the corridor and talk it out. And you said, well, what was it? I'm 50%, I'm 70.
No.
We had the percentages all wrong.
You said, like, it was a really tough moment because we were really, laying down the law here, and Pat was devastated because this was a huge thing. But he had done it on the bloody cheap.
It was Pat's fault. He did it on the cheap.
He recorded the show in the Tivoli, and then we went off on tour and left it all in his hands. And he got some young fella to do it, and the lighting was shit. I mean, it really
made us look
what is the
appalling.
point of doing all that work and putting all your whole life into something, recording it like, Anyway, I was so angry. But we went out in the corridor and you were going, what percentage are you? I think I said...
He's working on good Nuala, bad Nuala.
Yeah. I said something like, I'm 80-20. And you went, I think I'm 70-40. We cried. We cried laughing on the corridor outside the office and going, what is going on here? And then we had to go in. I remember Pat Egan saying to me, you ring Sony then. Do you remember that? He was going, you ring Sony. Pick up that phone and you ring Sony.
Well, you did.
Did I? I think I did.
Did I?
I can't remember.
This is the strength of working with someone like Sue Collins. You did pick up the phone and tell Sony, sorry, pull it. The thing had gone into production. They had the tens of thousands of euro, but we did the right thing.
Yeah, because
but had they created DVDs?
No, it was a video.
In post-production.
It was a video.
Oh, VHS. Had they created VHS?
Yeah.
They existed in a warehouse
I know all
somewhere.
the artwork had done.
We then got a fabulous video recorded in Cheltenham.
Yeah.
Which is wonderful.
It's superb.
And that is why we put our foot down.
It was a BBC Birmingham, a guy who worked for BBC Birmingham. He got the outside, some outside unit from BBC Birmingham. The lighting, the standard was Nuala standard.
Yeah.
It reflected.
And we edited it, Paul. We went into the editing suite and sat right at the back, and they kept saying, "Here, the joke is here. No, you cut to Josie for that. That's where the gag is. No, cut back to Anne for the other bit because that will set the joke up." And there's only one person can edit their comedy video, and that's the comic, and that's why it was so good. Do you remember that?
I'm really
Well, it's a
proud of
particular talent, and for three people, it's a big deal how you cut that.
Yeah, but I mean, I just think if you written the joke that you know exactly when. Anyway, that's why it's so good too.
The strength at that moment was phenomenal, and there was other times your strength is phenomenal, and.
Can I ask another question? With you two creatively, was it always just a kismet, or was there hard work within that, coming up with ideas and how?
There was
really hard, and it got really hard. In the beginning, it felt like we were being carried away on waves of magic, and I particularly enjoyed the improv with the Nualas. It just seemed to flow.
Yeah.
And I particularly loved it because I had been trying to chip away at stand-up, and I found in the frame of the Nuala character, every comedy idea I'd ever had could just flow through that.
Yeah.
But it did get harder as you carry on over the years, and you have to write the new show.
It does, because you're reinventing the wheel a bit. And then, of course, it was sort of born out of the idea of kind of the kind of country Spice Girls, really. You know, they thought they were in a super group, and that idea, that concept was very strong because it was around the time, it was in the 90s, it was Spice Girl era. It was very clever because we were in the sort of, but they were 3 country girls called Nuala. And then the Nuala thing came from the nurse who lived in Rathmines and coming up to Dublin, thinking they're great, that kind of country confidence.
You think they're great, yeah.
And kind of landing in the big smoke.
Yeah.
You know, so it was this fabricated supergroup, this Irish country super. It was very clever.
It was very clever, and it mirrored both the country girl coming to the big town and Ireland having notions, because it was coming out of the backward thing into the Celtic tiger. So there was a double metaphor there that seemed to just hit with the
it allows
zeitgeist.
for an awful lot of things to spin off that.
Oh,
Yeah.
it was...
I mean, and then I think you asked about our working relationship. Like you had come from a discipline of, you'd done stand up, so you were a joke writer, and so you had that sensibility coming from having to write a joke to go on a stage in a club in London.
Yeah.
I hadn't come from that. I was a bit more kind of, you know, I knew about comedy. I felt a lot of energy. I knew that you kind of taught me more of the joke writing side of it. You know, where's the joke? And I think it was that combination of kind of writing talents that kind of worked. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I didn't have so much of the where's the joke. I had more of the...
And then we didn't realise at the time, but the whole idea of us was so tantalising. 3 20-something girls in short skirts. I mean, we looked great, and... You know,
If you say so yourself.
we still do. Have you got the dresses and we put them on? now?
it was magic.
Yeah.
It was magic.
So then we were also, it just all kind of, and then we had that lovely, lucky thing of getting championed to go to Edinburgh and go on the Fringe of the Fringe, which was such a crazy thing to happen. We got kind of, this guy brought us over to Edinburgh, basically, a Scottish guy, a restaurateur, and he gave us accommodation, and then we did the Edinburgh Festival really quickly, really early on. And then, of course, we did the Late and Live gig, the famous Late and Live gig with Phil Kay, who loved us and really, do you remember him introducing us on? We stormed that, which is...
We got an encore, which is unheard of in Late and
unheard
Live.
of. It was the most... It
was when Late and Live was a bare pit.
It was the roughest show. I mean, we could have easily...
And we've been doing it 3 months. May, June, July. It was August. 3 months, and we
So
encored.
how long was your show at that stage? How many?
We had
how long you have for?
we must have we'd about 6 or 7 songs. God, it all happened so quick.
We were brazen. We went over and we got Karen Corran to come in and listen to us at 1 o'clock in the day. She was completely hungover.
Yeah.
Karen Corran ran the Gilded Balloon, and we were literally banging her door down, if you think about it. She went, no. Oh, do you know what she said to me? I said, please, can we do the Late and Live? And she went, are you completely mad? And I went, no. And she went, the Quack Squad, which were Joe Rooney and Paul Tylack, who were amazing comedians, and the Quack Squad was hysterical. They were hysterical as a duo. Did the Late and Live, and it didn't go well for them. And she went, and they died, and and we could have easily died. We could have.
Adorable Phil Kay.
It was again like that. It was zeitgeist. There was something that we did Bridget the Nun, and when I think about that, Bridget the Nun at the Late and Live gig.
I can't tell you, that was a bear pit gig, and we ripped that room.
Yeah, there was the comedian who did the radio show, Fred.
Oh, Fred Macaulay.
Fred Macaulay was standing outside the door of the Gilded Balloon, after I heard this massive cheer, and said that he didn't know who was on, and he walked in to see, and he saw these 3 girls with glasses, and he had a really big radio show at the time, and he had us on, and that Neil, that was really pivotal because, you know, that
And
was...
my memory of our runs in Edinburgh was all the time in a taxi, going to another radio show, a telly thing or whatever.
Yeah.
We had...
I can see the montage now.
Yeah, well, it was a montage like that because I'm telling you,
It doesn't happen very often.
it doesn't happen very often.
So that was all really, really great. And of course, after that, Karen was all over us, and she brought us to Singapore, and she orchestrated that, and then Melbourne Comedy Festival, Adelaide Comedy Festival, and then, you know, the Edinburgh Festival career was so successful. Then we did the 54-day tour of the UK. It's where I was trying to get a job. Am I hired? No. And then New York, of course, for
New York was that
extended.
for me.
Yeah. So look, it was a wonderful thing to have happened. But I don't feel. I guess at this point, I suppose where I am, I don't know. Do you feel this? You're doing so well with your shows and everything now. It's amazing to see how well you're doing and how successful you are doing your solo show. But I don't know, do you feel this? I don't feel I've anything more to prove.
Well, I do. I feel I have stuff to prove with these shows on my own. And
Yeah.
also, here's the thing I have to prove. You'd probably just say, oh, it doesn't matter. But I'm constantly reading things in the papers where I'm totally written out of history. Like,
Right.
I was doing stand-up in the early 90s. I have read it once. I have read it fucking 10 times recently. That there was no women doing stand-up in the early 90s.
Right.
I want to prove I want to say I was there. It matters to me as a legacy thing, and I don't like the way that the history of comedy
The
has.
numbers were big.
No, but can I say this? I just don't like the way the history has been rewritten, and I am so proud of what we achieved, and I feel I have seen it written out of history a little bit, and I can't believe it. I don't know why people are trying to do that, and. So I do feel I have something to prove, to just hark back to a legacy, because I have been chipping away at this a long time. So it's in a funny way, Sue, I feel I do.
You do.
I feel I really do.
So
have something.
it's not so much. Yeah, it's like I understand how that feeling of unfinished business. You know.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have that, weirdly. Why is that, Anne?
Well, I mean, you followed up the Nuala straight away with the massively, massively successful Dirtbirds.
Yeah.
But I can see your unfinished business. I want you.
It's there on the ground.
I know what I want to see you do. I
Okay.
want to see you do the character comedy show. Like, who's the Manchester comic? I always say.
Oh, Steve Coogan.
Steve
Yeah,
Coogan.
yeah.
Like, I absolutely love his show where he did Paul and Pauline Calf, and that's would be my go-to comedy, because you just float along on the mad world. He just takes you in, and it's just effortless, funny. I want to see you do that.
Yeah.
For me, that's your unfinished business. But I know that you've worked to the highest level so much.
You missed
so.
the singing at the level that it was.
Do you know I miss singing full stop, Paul? I really miss it. I really, really miss it.
Michael Bride, with your head held high like a goose in the sky, speeding through the town on your Honda, in your drain pipe jeans and your Black Sabbath badge that your mother sewed onto your duffel coat. I remember your stuck-on sideburns. I remember your massive eyebrow. I remember your tattoo in the shape of Fu Manchu. You did it in biro, that's why it was blue. That's the wrong key, wasn't it? It's a bit too low, was it?
I thought that was perfect.
Oh, it was a bit.
I really, really miss it.
I really miss it.
Yeah.
Let's
sing.
I was doing a post on Instagram. I was trying to reclaim a bit of Nuala moment, because we were huge in Edinburgh, and I was just making the point. And I put up a little bit of one of our songs over it, and I was just listening, going, oh my God. It was Donna Sutherland. Oh, so beautiful.
Yeah, that was one of my favourite songs, actually. Very proud of that song.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was good. It was good fun. We'll start up a choir, Anne, just you and me.
Have you ever heard of duets?
But comedy, you feel you don't have on.
I'm
You
not-
don't. We'll say this: you've nothing to prove.
Look, not that, like, I didn't become huge, massive to go, but I mean, I had a wonderful, I'm just saying it's not over. I'm in a situation now where the Derpers didn't have a fifth show in us, in them, and I think myself and Sinead's creative relationship has run its course in a way, and she certainly had unfinished business in her solo stand-up career, and I'm delighted that she's gone ahead and done all that. She had to do that, I think. So it's left me in a kind of interesting place now, and I think it's what I want to do is give myself some space. To really, I don't want to do something for the sake of it. I really don't. I want that lovely flow, that feeling, that fire in my belly. I think if the fire is not in your belly before you start embarking on writing a show, you're in a bad place. That's one thing I have learned. From the outside in doesn't work. We should be doing this. We should do a podcast. We should write a show. I know that if I wrote a show and put it on the road, it would do well.
Yeah.
I know that. That's the practical end of it. I have to earn money too, so that comes into it.
I have fire in the belly for you. Here, have it. Here,
Thanks
take
a million.
it.
Push it into the cup.
Yeah, I'll just put it in
Pour
there.
it in there with the coffee.
Yeah.
And I'll drink it. Oh, there it is. There's that fire.
There.
No.
So what's it called? The Sue Collins Steve Coogan show?
I have no, honestly, it's not there yet. Also, you've always said this. You've always said you have to have something to say. You have to have that, even if it's just a backdrop of your comedy show. You have to be saying something. There always has to be a truth to what you do. If you were to describe a show, even if it's, I would say you've really found your voice. You're in your show. Look, I was at Anne's gig the other night in the thing. You were fantastic, doing your set, and there's just that love.
Do you feel you've known me since I started out doing stand-up in the early 90s?
Yeah.
And you used to say to me, I like to see I like a comic to take me on a journey. I like to see a nerd.
Yeah.
I wasn't there with what I was doing, was I?
I think because I think because you were doing stand up in the clubs, you're not going to find it there.
No.
You're not going to find it. You got to get on, make them laugh, and get off.
Yeah.
So there's no space to find that comedy monkey madness.
Yeah, that's the weird thing you always say.
Monkey madness. That crazy, that your inner clown. That really find the clown, and you really tap into that energy. That that you've got to make yourself laugh. You've really got to make yourself laugh first.
Absolutely agree.
Yeah.
The best laugh is when you make a joke and you only laugh at it 10 minutes later and it catches you out.
Yeah. I mean, myself and Sinead were talking about a show we did down in Carrick and Shannon, and we couldn't stop laughing on the bloody stage. It was so embarrassing. It was terribly unprofessional.
Well, because you were so connected.
I was doing Mrs. O'Connor and I had the wig, and there was
love
hair.
Mrs. O'Connor.
There was hair caught in my glasses, and she was playing the Dutch person who come over to Mrs. O'Connor and Mrs. O'Connor. Then never the two cultures colliding. It was so. I really enjoyed that, and Miss O'Connor telling the Dutch tourist
good.
about the shower and how you have to hop in, turn it on to cold, the hot water will come on, you leave it on for 8 seconds, wash yourself very quickly, then you have to hop out and hop back in again. And then that'll turn, once you turn it on to hot, then it'll go cold, but then it'll go freezing, so hop out before the cold comes in, and then you hop back in. It's a bit like a dance, and we couldn't stop laughing on stage, and it's just those lovely, lovely moments of it had one. I remember
The audience come with the laughter too.
yeah, and I
because
think
they-
Dylan's. I was talking to Dylan. It's like a name dropping. I was
Yeah.
talking to Dylan Moran, but he at the Paddy Power Comedy Festival a couple of years ago, and he was just going. Once it stops becoming fun, just it's not good.
Yeah.
Just it has. You've got to have fun. You know, you have to have fun. So I'm just going to wait for the fun to come back.
Yeah, it will come.
Yeah, yeah, it will. It will.
Yeah.
In the meantime, I'll be in Tesco in the till.
And on that note, any final words?
I love
Any
you,
final
Sue.
words?
I love you.
Any final
You're
words?
so
The
brilliant.
6 Diet Cokes going for $12.50, but it's only a very limited time.
Between 12 o'clock and 5 past.
Yes, today. So run in. Tesco on
Make
Cork
sure you have your
Street.
club
Run in.
card with you.
Yeah, and don't forget the club card because you won't get them for $12.50. They'll be back to the original price of $14.70.
And that's the 12 o'clock to 5 past 12 club
Yeah,
card.
yeah.
Go say thank you to Sue.
Sue, thank you so. I want to have another chat with you
I know.
again.
I'll come on.
When
yeah.
when you've got the Steve
Yeah.
Coogan, Sue Collins,
Yeah. Mash. Yeah.
show going,
Yeah.
we'll talk.
We'll talk about it again.
I love chatting with you.
Thanks, Anne. I love chatting with you too.
Okay.
My old comedy chum.
Thanks, Sue. It was lovely. Thanks for having me on your show, Anne.
That was great.